We just want to kind of start with some basic ideas to begin with and understanding how the wrists are moving. So during the golf swing, your forearm, the left forearm for me, I'm a right-handed player, is tilted inwards this way, and then the actual wrist for me is tilted a little bit to the right even further. So I don't have any of this motion in address position. I've got a little bit of set this way, cupping, or radial deviation if you want to get technical. And I've got a little bit of what we call like cupping this way or extension. So it's hinged up a little bit and the back of the wrist is extended this way a little bit. Now my right wrist, because the club's on in front of me here, my arm is coming down at this angle. This wrist is a little bit in extension too. It's not flexed this way. What gets confusing in the golf swing is that it looks as though the wrists hinge quite a bit. So when a lot of people come to me, they're really trying to over-hinge their wrists. They're looking at how do they create more lag. And if you look at your entire body, what I tell them is, would you really rely on your wrists to produce most of your power? The wrists are transferring energy through them. They're not doing a lot of work. What gets confusing is when I set my hands down in front of me, both wrists are slightly in extension. Both wrists have a bit of hinge to them at setup. But it doesn't appear as though they have much hinge when they're laying in front of me. As I rotate my arms away, it appears as though I'm hinging my wrist, but all I've really done is take the wrist hinge I had here and turn my arms to the side. So there doesn't look like there's any wrist hinge here from this direction, but yet when I get here, it looks as though I've hinged my wrist quite a bit. And what I actually did was rotate my forearms. So there is more rotation of the forearms in the golf swing than there is hinging of the wrists. And there's more rotation of the forearms both back and then through than there is any flexing and extending of the wrists. So when we're looking at the golf swing and we see it impact, it looks as though it's a very bowed left wrist. It looks some degree of this amount. So that's extension that way, and that's flexion that way. A lot of people are using those terms these days. But what happens is the wrists have unhinged downwards quite a bit through impact. So when I have my wrist hinged up, it looks like they're in extension. When I unhinge them down, it looks like the wrist is in flexion. So there is way more of a slight hinge up, unhinge down, than there is an extension or flexion changing much during a golf swing. It just gets a bit deceptive because we take the arms from this position and rotate them to our side. So it looks as though the wrist hinge has changed dramatically. It really hasn't. There's very little change in wrist hinge. There's very little change in flexion and extension during the swing. There is forearm roll in the swing, and there is a slight hinge up and quite a bit of hinge down through impact. Full swing I'm talking about. Now I'm talking about specifically with driver, there's more hinging going on downwards. There's more speed involved. But you can see how that wrist looks extended here, and when I unhinge it down, it looks like it's flexed. But I didn't do this. This gets very confusing. It looks like that's happening. It's much more of that and that with this and that. So those are the pieces that are going on. Try not to have too much hinge up. The hinge down will happen for you. It's forearm roll, put the club on plane and release it around you. Looks like the wrists change a lot. The wrist angles don't change that much. Don't overdo that. That will help you.